and suggested a new segment name for the football segment. So, if nothing else for this week at least, because like I said, the FCC ninjas might come in and give it to me here when I let you know what it is. But for at least the foreseeable future here, we're going to have a new name for our football segment, and I'm going to lay it on you now. Here, are you ready for it? The football segment's new segment name is The Spew. Yes, that's right. The Spew. S-P-E-W, if you're trying to spell that at home. Our weekly football segment, now known as The Spew. So let's get underway with The Spew. Should we start in college football, where not only were there amazing game results last week and amazing games coming up this week, but also multiple very interesting stories regarding head coaches and a player. But you know me, I'm more of an NFL guy, so we gotta start NFL here with The Spew. Oh boy, let's see if I can ever say that. Boy, it might be a long time before I can say that without laughing. But we'll see. Maybe, who knows? But anyway, so we're gonna start it off in the NFL, and we've got my and possibly your Minnesota Vikings coming back from their Week 5 bye following their 3-point loss to the Denver Broncos in Denver. They are 2-2, and they will be taking on the Kansas City Chiefs at TCF Bank Stadium in Minnesota this Sunday. I believe that is a noon o'clock start. The Chiefs are 1-4. I predicted them to win the AFC West this year. That pick is clearly not on track, and to further cement their woes, their by far best offensive player, all-pro running back Jamal Charles, tore, I believe it was his ACL, maybe an MCL, but he had ligament tear last week, and he is out for the season. Crucial, devastating blow to my most significant money league fantasy football team. He was my keeper pick from the last year's squad in that league. He's so the cornerstone of one of my fantasy football teams, and he is no more this year, joining the likes of Ben Roethlisberger, who might be returning fairly soon, actually, earlier than schedule, but Tony Romo, Dez Bryant, all kinds of big-name injuries this year in the NFL, as it seems like there is every year now. I do not recall it being that way when I was growing up in my NFL glory days, which included the 0-4 in Super Bowl Buffalo Bills, the Jimmy Johnson-led Dallas Cowboys with Emmett, Barry Sanders highlights against Vikings. Those were my NFL glory days, and I don't recall injuries being as big of a deal back then as they are now. It seemed like they were less serious and less frequent. So I don't know. So somebody's got to get to the bottom of that. But anyway, getting a little off topic, we want to keep it to previewing specifically the Vikings' upcoming game against Kansas City and what the aftermath of trading away starting middle linebacker Gerald Hodges will be. Now, I am hopeful to be in talks with Paul Allen or his lackey. Can't remember if it's Wabi or whoever is the co-host there on the 9 to noon. But I'm hoping to talk to PA tomorrow and find out if he is as concerned about the Minnesota Vikings run defense this week and moving forward post Gerald Hodges trade. Now, Gerald Hodges did not have an overly impressive first 4 games in the season. However, watching the film back, Gerald Hodges only had one poor grading out game of the 4, that being the San Francisco game, where just about everybody graded out poor. Against Detroit, against San Diego, and against Denver, Gerald Hodges graded out as having very good games. That according to my grading of the film, which is likely more accurate than most people that you will hear talking about such topics. Don't believe me, proofs in the Jello pudding. So, where Gerald Hodges was most valuable to the Vikings, as you know, he had always been an outside linebacker prior to this point in his professional career. This preseason, they decided to move him to middle linebacker, teach him that position, where he became, throughout training camp and preseason, the starting middle linebacker in our base 4-3 defense. The beauty of this was that it allowed second round draft pick middle linebacker Eric Kendricks the opportunity to specifically focus and start and try to master the nickel package and responsibilities in that, which is primarily pass coverage or pass rush, those situations. So it was ideal. Now, I said from day one of this that ultimately Kendricks has to become the every down starting middle linebacker. When that happens, then you move Hodges back out to weak side linebacker or the will linebacker, and Chad Greenway becomes then your, interchangeable situational backup linebacker. But you would have a linebacking core of Kendricks in the middle and Barr and Hodges on the outside, and it would be one of the most athletic, dangerous, feared, dominant linebacking groups in all of football, both now and for years to come. So that being said, what did the Vikes do? They decided to trade Gerald Hodges to the San Francisco 49ers. Well, people get traded. They must have got somebody good, and he's a starter on our defense, and our defense is really good, so we must have got something for him. We got a 6th round draft pick in next year's draft, which helps us 0 this season, and we got a center who is now the 4th center on our roster. John Sullivan is on the designated to return injured reserve list. Should be, I want to say that's an 8-week thing, so we've only got 3 more weeks until he can come back, start practicing. Even if he can't, Berger is the starter now. He's been doing a good job. There's no need to replace him. We kept Curran, a 3rd center, throughout the preseason. He's still on the team. So trading for 4th string backup center Nick Easton and a 6th round pick, trading away our starting 4-3 middle linebacker, makes no sense to me whatsoever. But you're saying, well, Kendricks was supposed to be the starter. You said that, Scotty Ball. Yes, I did say that, and that is what's going to happen now and what was supposed to happen. The problem with that is Kendricks' run support is nowhere near ready for him to be the starting 4-3 middle linebacker. If you watch all 4 games of Kendricks on film this year, he has been barely adequate to less than acceptable against the run almost every time he's been out on the field. He has shined quite a bit at moments in different games throughout the season, but that's been mostly in pass coverage. If it has been against the run, it's simply been he was blitzing, and the play call got him an unblocked, run at the ball carrier or whatever. Anybody can make that play. Anybody should make that play. if you're watching the film and you know what to look for, all year against the run, Kendricks has struggled mightily, both in pursuit angles, getting to the ball carrier properly and via the right path, and also even worse, and the much more alarming one, his block shedding. All you got to do as a blocker, run blocking against Kendricks, is just get your hands on him, and boom, he's done. He's eaten up. He ain't going anywhere. He will just stand there and patty cake with you until the whistle blows. So Kendricks has a long way to go, and the Vikings were winning games, staying in games, because of the success of their defense. It wasn't anything that our offense has done in any of those 4 games that's resulted in our 2-2 record, and a possibility to still be a wild card team when all is said and done at the end of this regular season. It has been 100% our defense accomplishing that. And so our brilliant plan was to trade away a key piece of that defense and get a low-round draft pick next year and someone who ideally never sees the field this year or ever. He's an emergency plan. I don't get it. And I think we're going to pay for it at least for a couple weeks here. And until Jamal Charles went out for the season here last week with his injury, I was ready to pick the Kansas City Chiefs at 1-4 to come into Minnesota off their bye week and run all over them and win the game. I am still predicting that with a no-name running back by committee likely approach here for the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday against the Vikings, that the Kansas City Chiefs team rushing yards will be well over 100 yards. As a team, they will rush for more than 100 yards against this Viking team with a very, under glorified or underperforming. Everybody says they stink. The Kansas City offensive line. That might not be true because most people don't know what they're talking about when they comment on teams' offensive lines. They just look at the rushing yards and the sacks allowed and go, well, you have a good O-line or you have a bad O-line. Generally, that's not the case at all. That's not how you figure that out. But I'm telling you right now, the Kansas City offensive line and the Kansas City running game without Jamal Charles is going to look fantastic this Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings defense, and it is going to be because of the trading away of one Gerald Hodges. Now, for the record, I'm still picking the Vikings to win the game, but I'll remind you of that when we get to the pick'ems. As far as the rest of the Vikings preview goes, like I said, defensively, can Kendricks stop the run? Can Greenway be a bigger contributor too in that base 4-3 to stopping the run? Neither one of them have been good against the run this year whatsoever, especially Kendricks. But he's going to have to be now. So, does that hurt us as much as I think it's going to? Will be a key. Also, can our supposed to be stud, at times amazing defensive line with B-Rob, Griffin, Linval Joseph, and the Sheriff Sharif Floyd, if they can dominate and be impressive the way they were against Detroit, the way they were against San Diego, the way they were supposed to be against a terrible Denver Broncos offensive line that for the most of the game owned our defensive line. We had a very poor performance against a team that's supposed to have a bad offensive line. Well, we're playing a team that's supposed to have a bad offensive line again this next week. So which defensive line for the Vikes is going to show up? The one from week 2 and 3, or the one from week 1 and 4? Those are your keys on the defensive side of the ball for the Vikings against the Chiefs. Chiefs, you really don't need to concern yourselves too much with the passing. Rhodes, assuming he's healthy, should be able to take out Macklin, Harrison Smith, as well, and Barron Kendricks, who was great in pass coverage, should be able to defend against tight end Travis Kelce fairly well. And Alex Smith is just a check down game manager type of guy. So that's where your defensive keys for the Vikings are. offensively